All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Jane Davis. I'm the principal of Piedmont Hills, of course. With me today is Matt Kiesle. He is our head football coach and our athletic director. Our topic today is everything athletics. So hopefully this is informative to you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about why athletics are important. We're going to talk about some sportsmanship and what we need from parents. And then we will give an overview of sports and athletic clearances and the paperwork that you guys need to do so that your child is eligible to play sports. And then, of course, we will answer any questions. As we're going today, if you have questions, you can raise your hand, you can take yourself off mute, you can put a question in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable with will totally work for all of us. Before we actually officially get started, let me make sure I'm on the right screen before I share. I wanted to put out a plea to parents. If you go, hopefully you guys get the email with my newsletter link every week, but just in case you don't, hold on as I'm admitting people. If you were to go on our website, this is the homepage, my weekly newsletter is linked right here. So if for some reason you don't actually get those emails every Sunday, like here is the link, you don't need that email because the link is right here on our website. I'm going to click on it. And I wanted to point something out in here in my welcome message this week. I put this information about the fall panorama survey. Parents, if you have not yet taken this survey, please do so. This is actually really valuable. I checked last night and we only had like 25 parents take the survey, and obviously we have way more parents than that. So please, this is a little pitch for you to take the survey. What you would do is you click on this link, and then you're going to click on, go down to Piedmont Hills, take this survey. Right, and then you can start taking the survey. Right here, you can change the language. You can take the survey in English, Spanish, or Vietnamese, whatever you're most comfortable reading in. So I just wanted to start today. It was a little like PSA, please help us out and take this survey. Okay, that's that. Let me stop sharing. So talking about athletics today, one thing I think in the past I've talked a lot about this. I don't think I've talked about this this year because my daughter's now in college and no longer doing high school sports, but my daughter did high school sports all 4 years. Her last year of high school was the year that we were all on distance learning. So she actually didn't really do sports that last year because she was a wrestler. And while other sports participated and had seasons, that distance learning year, wrestling really didn't, because obviously it's a very close contact sport. And so wrestling didn't really happen. But I know what it's like to be a parent of an athlete and how much time it takes in your life, to get them to and from practices and to and from their games. Believe me, I spent many a weekend at wrestling tournaments all day, and wrestling is an interesting sport because you're there for probably about 8 hours and watch your child. If they have a good match, you're watching them for 2 minutes, but sometimes as little as 30 seconds. So it's a lot. And so from my part as principal, and I'm sure Coach Kiesle would agree, I want to thank all the parents for all of your support, because honestly, high school athletics, we wouldn't be able to do it without parent support. Parents do play a really big part in what we do and pulling off athletics. So thank you for that. I just really wanted to start today by acknowledging you guys and the work that you do as parents. I have this article that I came across, and when I send out the recording to this video, I will link the article, and it's called "Why Are High School Sports Important and 10 Benefits for Teens." I'm not going to go over the whole article, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of things and the points that they're making in this article and why athletics is actually an important part of the high school. I mean, in high school, we always focus on the academics. We may focus on the social part because there's dances and clubs and all of that fun stuff. But athletics is actually a really important part that I want to encourage students that have an interest in it. If they hate athletics, then we don't want to torture them with it. But if they have an interest in athletics, this is a really good could be a really strong part of their high school career. Some benefits of athletics It provides a foundation of fitness for life. They've done studies, and teens that participate in high school sports tend to have athletics and fitness be a part of their life as an adult. Like they kind of like set that foundation, and that's something, obviously maybe not to like the same extent, maybe they're not doing competitive sports as an adult, but they still have fitness as part of their life. Obviously, and like lifelong fitness is something that will improve health outcomes. I'm sure we all are aware of that. It also, not just like fitness outcomes, but it also, athletes tend to have better academic outcomes also. You have the simple fact that, and one of the things that Coach Kiesle will talk about today is you have to maintain a certain GPA to be eligible to participate in sports. And so that a lot of times can encourage kids to, oh, I have to keep my grades up, or maybe they don't, if they didn't have that internal motivation to keep their grades up on their own. Athletics can provide that motivation. And then besides that, getting regular exercise improves memory and helps focus. So just that, like the fact that they're getting daily exercise actually will help them perform better in school because it helps them focus better. It helps them remember things better. When we talk about, one of the topics that, or reoccurring topic that we talk about every Wednesday morning when Ms. Gunter is with me, is we talk about depression and mental health. Athletics can stave off depression. It can really help kids that are struggling with mental health issues. Regular exercises and that's one of the things that we talk about as something that can really help with that. And that's something I found with my daughter too, and I've been open with my daughter's mental health struggles. When she was participating in sport and when she was in season and she was exercising regularly, her mental health was better. Like it definitely had a positive impact. Other lifelong benefits for participating in athletics, it helps kids develop leadership skills. They're, on a team, and within that team dynamic, obviously teamwork skills, we as adults, we all have to work, unless you are working at home solely by yourself and in business, like solely by yourself, we usually have to work with other people. And athletics is one of those things that teaches you how to work with the team. It can strengthen social skills. And social relationships with each other, lifelong friendships. I've just recently, I told my staff this, I just had my 30-year high school reunion this past weekend. And one of the things, and I didn't, it's funny because maybe I just forgot, it's been 30 years, I easily could have forgot, but apparently my senior year in high school, the boys soccer team won CCS. And which is actually a really big deal. And I don't remember that happening, but listening to the guys talk about, that were on this team and like the memories they have and their friendships that they had and this experience they had, it was really cool to listen to. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about from this article, they've done studies that kids that participate in high school athletics are more likely to go to college. Now, only, and when I want to put a little caveat, only about 2% of kids who play high school sports receive scholarships to play sports in college. So I don't want you to think that like you're going to put your kid in, and they're going to get this scholarship, because that is actually very, very rare. But they are more likely to be accepted to college if they participated in high school sports, especially, and the study points out, especially if they are a girl or they grew up in an economically disadvantaged district, which, Eastside is an economically disadvantaged district. So this is a benefit for your kids to participate in sports. Hopefully that helps sell it a little bit. If you didn't figure out, I am a fan of athletics. So before I turn it over to Coach Kiesle, I'm going to share my screen again. I wanted to show, I gotta find it, hold on. There it is. I'm gonna show this short video. It's short, I promise. It's only about 45 seconds long, and it's about sportsmanship and how we want parents to act.
High school sports are one of the things that make living in California so great. But sometimes the behavior in the stands can overshadow our achievements on the field.
I love it when my parents show up for me.
Well, being booed for missing a play could be crushing.
And remember that refs are people too.
They're trying their best to call a fair and correct game.
Hey, and enough with all the swearing.
No one should feel insulted or ashamed
because of their race, ethnicity, or gender.
We should be able to hold our heads high after the match, win or lose.
So CCS and CIF wanted to have us to talk about sportsmanship and parents' behavior in the crowds. And honestly, at Piedmont Hills, we are very lucky. Our parents are very good and we rarely have problems, but you know, these are kids out there. And so we do encourage our parents to remember that they're kids, to remember that the officials are just doing their job, and to not abuse them, please, and to make it be fun. Coach Kiesle, do you have anything to add to sportsmanship?
Yeah, and a little bit about the officials too is that, you know, we're dealing with a crisis and the number of officials that are out there right now, because honestly, because sometimes the experience is so bad where you have, you know, coaches, parents, even athletes mistreating officials, and they do it for money, but very little money. Nobody makes a living out of being a high school official. So we have really been pushing this at the league and section level because, you know, we're trying to recruit officials, and you know, we have to play. We play this Thursday night instead of Friday night in the football because there's not enough officials to go around. So they had to move games off of Friday night to less fun nights. You know, and those kind of things, because there just aren't enough officials to go around. And so it's a big part of it is the sportsmanship aspect of it. It's also, you know, it doesn't pay a whole lot of money. So, you know, it's people with passion that do these things. So, you know, so we are, as coaches, we are trying to, you know, make a concerted effort not to get on the officials like we used to back in the old days. And, you know, just, they're just out there trying to help, and we can't have sports without them. So, you know, that's, you know, what Ms. Davis said too, is that, you know, they try, you know, we don't want to get all over these guys. They don't always call things right in people's opinion, but it's important to support them as well.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to show you guys a little bit of a presentation. This presentation is part of a bigger presentation that we showed during freshman orientation about athletics. I actually had emailed this presentation out to parents, so you guys may have seen these slides before. We have not presented it this year to parents, but if you had looked at that presentation, you may have seen these slides, but it explains how athletics works at Piedmont Hills. So let me share my screen again. I probably need to, hold on. Probably got to start from the beginning. Oh no, it started the race part. All right, Matt, this is you.
Okay, so we're just going to give you a very brief explanation of high school sports. First of all, we like to, you know, emphasize that it is, we ask our students to be student athletes. So it is an educational based program. It's not, Ms. Davis mentioned that very small percentage of kids actually gets college scholarships, or, you know, but sports do encourage them to go on and play. Right now, for example, in our football program, the local JCs, we have about 12 or 13 players that are playing football at local JCs and getting an education. We have one player that's playing in the NFL. I mean, that's really exciting, but I've been at Piedmont Hills for over 30 years, and we've had 2 players that have played in the NFL. So that's not our goal. Our goal is for the kids to have a great experience here and all those things that article talked about. So real important, participating in athletics is a privilege, and it's not a right. So you've got to be a good citizen on campus, and you've got to maintain a minimum of a 2.0 grade point average. And right now, the coming out of COVID, the rules we are at the minimum rules, but we encourage students to have no more than one failing class. You can be eligible with 2 at this point in time, but that may change in the future. But the key is that 2.0 grade point average, and you have to pass a minimum of 4 classes. Most of our students do that. We want our students to have good behavior on campus and respect their teachers and follow school and classroom rules at all times. So we are part of the entire state of California is part of the CIF, the California Interscholastic Federation, and our part of it is called the CCS. Ms. Davis talked about the CCS title that was won at her school when she was there. So that's the area. It goes from San Francisco down to King City. It's about 145 schools that play athletics. Then we are part of what's now 26 teams in the Boston Valley Athletic League, and our league is broken up into 3 or 4 divisions depending on the sport, and schools are placed in the appropriate division based on their level of competition. So hopefully we're not having really, really good teams play really, really bad teams, and because that outcome is not good for either side. We group the better programs in the highest league, and the programs that are developing in the lowest league, and the other schools in the middle. High school sports are played in 3 seasons. Right now we're in the fall season. The fall season runs from now until roughly Halloween. Playoffs go a little past that. Then starts the winter season, and we're going to show you a breakdown of what sports are in those seasons in just a second. Winter season runs basically from early November until maybe the beginning of March, end of middle of February, and then spring season, which has got the most teams and the most athletes competing, runs from February till the end of the school year. Students may compete in one sport each season. We have had some students that have competed in multiple sports in the same season if the coaches agree. We don't encourage that, but there's been times where it's worked out well. Like we had a track guy who also played golf, and the 2 coaches worked together since they were at the same time so that the kid could compete in both, but that's a rarity. And then first, here's fall. Yeah, go ahead. That's good, Jenny.
Okay.
First is fall. So currently, this is what's going on right now. Football, girls volleyball, cross country for boys and girls. We were attempted to have a girls golf team, but we did not have enough participation this year. We're hoping to restart that program next year. And then finally, girls tennis. Those are all going on right now. They started before school started. They started practice, and they will go, like I said, about through Halloween or early November. The winter sports are the next ones coming up. Boys and girls basketball, boys and girls soccer, and wrestling, which girls wrestling is a growing sport. We don't have a dedicated girls team, but if we had enough girls to come out, we can. They compete separately at the sectional level. It used to be that girls would wrestle with boys, and that worked out fine, especially at the lower weights. But now girls have their own division now. It just depends on how many girls are interested. And then finally, when we get into the fall, to spring, excuse me, this is where we have a lot, there's a lot of sports on this list. Baseball for boys, softball for girls, track and field for both genders, boys golf, boys tennis, badminton, which is actually a co-ed sport, meaning they play girls singles, girls doubles, boys singles, boys doubles, and they play mixed doubles. So they actually have competition where there's one boy and one girl against one boy and one girl. So kind of cool. There's boys and girls swimming, and there's boys volleyball also in the spring. The start date for that is the end of January, where they can start practice, and then, like I said, that'll go all the way through the rest of the school year if the teams get into CCS. So let's talk about academic eligibility. We just talked about that. Number 1, 2.0 grade point average, must pass a minimum of 20 credits. or be granted academic probation. If you pass 20 credits, once when you're a freshman or sophomore, and once when you're a junior or senior, you can use an academic probation and be allowed to play without the 2.0, but you still have to have passed at least 20 credits. This allows the kids, a couple of grading periods. And when I talk about a grading period, I'm talking about our 6-week grading period. We have to check grades every single time. So we just had a grading period end right before we went on vacation. I had to check grades. Kids, some kids became ineligible, other kids became eligible for the games starting that next week. So their eligibility can change during the season. So we always coaches try to keep on top of the kids' grades the best they can. And academic probation can be granted. You can't have it in consecutive semesters. And right now, freshmen are all considered, when they come into high school, they're considered on academic probation for that first grading period. Otherwise, we'd have to go back and check middle school grades, which would be a nightmare. So we, the league considers every single freshman to be on probation the first grading period. So then some of our freshmen, for example, in football, did not make grades, and they are not eligible to use a probation because they're considered already on probation when they start. They could use it later in their freshman year, but just not at the beginning. So other requirements, you need a current physical examination. Current means within the last year, and that's for the whole season. So one physical examination will be good for any sports that a student competes in the entire school year. We do have a doctor that comes and does inexpensive physicals. They cost $20. I have him next scheduled for coming on Halloween at 3:30 in the afternoon, and we usually do that stuff in room P14. So the other thing that I don't have on here, and I think we talk about it in a later slide, but there's a physical form that the East Side put out that we would like you to use, and you can get it off of the Piedmont Hills website. The physical form is a 3-page form. The doctor will sign off on that. And then you also need proof of current medical insurance. And that leads to number 4, which is completing our athletic registration procedure, which is on the PH website. The athlete must, and the parents must go on and answer some questions, put your information in, and upload proof of insurance, which is just a picture of your insurance card or an upload of your insurance if you don't have a card, and then a picture of the physical form. And then I have to go through and I check all those things to make sure all those requirements have been met before a kid is cleared to play. And finally, number 5 here, if you are a transfer student from a different school, different high school, you have to do paperwork, even if you didn't play sports at the previous high school. So I'm the one that students would see getting that paperwork. I have to put the transfer application into CCS, who has to approve it. You're not automatically eligible when you start at a new school. There are some rules that go with that. So here's the under athletics. It talks about in our website, talks about athletic physicals. You can get the physical forms there, and then also on our athletics website, you can find the athletic registration. Okay, so I think this is, I don't know if it's a current screenshot of our. Sometimes when you go into the website, our athletics tab is under the very last drop-down menu. So you might have to go there to find the athletics tab because we run out of room on the banner sometimes. But this is where you would find athletic registration. So it takes probably 20 minutes for you and your child to fill out the athletic registration. and upload. When we talk about uploading, we're just talking about a snapshot of your insurance card and a snapshot of the physical form. It's pretty easy to do. Once you've done that, so long as you remember your passwords, the student can go in each year, and a lot of the stuff is already, pre-entered. So in consecutive years, you can just reuse the same registration. So there's our website. You hit the athletics tab for athletics information, and there's my email, and I will get back to you with to answer any questions or concerns that you might have. If it's an athletic related question, we'd much rather you come to me first, okay, instead of Miss Davis. That's my job, and more than willing to talk with you and respond to your emails.
I'm always willing to answer questions, but I'm probably going to direct you to Coach Kiesle, so you might as well go to him first.
Yeah, you just be saving yourself a step if you email me first.
Okay, that's the end of, hold on, let me stop sharing. Get out of that. I was going to go back and show you guys the website again. And then if you guys have any questions, there's no questions in the chat, please put questions in the chat. So this is our website. And then this is the athletics program tab. What Coach Kiesle was saying is, depending on the size of your screen, like if you have this, your window shrunken, sometimes all of these banners up here don't all fit. And so you might see one that says other. And then if athletics isn't there, look under other, and then it's going to be there.
Yes.
But that's where you'll see like the athletic registration and everything that you need to do for that. And then just on the athletics, here's the forms that you need. So that's where you're going to find everything. I think we probably need to update that. So it looks like some of the slides are looks a little bit different.
And with those transfer forms, the best thing to do is to email me, and I will make sure you get the correct form. There's a form that you have to fill out, then I have to enter it electronically on the CCS website. But I need that form because I have to upload it too, which has information like where you're coming from and all that kind of stuff.
So one question that I frequently get from parents is when tryouts are going to be. I've already gotten questions about winter sports and tryouts. When I answer that question, I tend to give like just the general, because this is when the season starts, so it's going to be somewhere around this time. So for example, the winter season, Halloween is the first date, so usually sometime that first week of November. But again, contact Coach Kiesle. Sometimes I get that information and I'll share it out like, hey, this is when the tryouts are going to be. I don't always get the information. Some of our coaches are better at sharing that than others, but Coach Kiesle will know. Yeah, and many programs do have open gyms or open fields. The soccer team will have the kids out there, but it's not a coaching situation. They can't do that yet. It's conditioning or free play. When they do an open gym for basketball, if they announce it, then people can come down and, prospective players can come down and play, but they're not doing any tryouts yet. It's mostly conditioning and or open gyms. They cannot start official tryouts until the official start date. Got a couple of questions about wrestling. Is wrestling a co-ed sport? And then how many days of practice for wrestling?
How many days of practice? Well, they practice every day, but they don't start. Like our coach will run some, again, it'll be like an open mat. They'll do some work in the off season. And then, but once practice starts officially, which would be the 31st of October, pretty much daily practice. I know they tend to practice in the early evening just because coaches' jobs. So they usually practice at 5 o'clock, which is not much different than other sports now that we start school later. And to answer the physical question, you may do physicals it's your own doctor. You can bring this form in. Doctors have been very good about signing this form, or you may upload the form you get from like Kiesle. It doesn't have to be the Eastside form, but it needs to be somewhere. It needs to have that doctor's signature, the date of the physical, and that the student is cleared to play sports. There on our form, there's actually a box that you check. Kiesle physicians they also stamp it with their office stamp and their signature. That makes it official for us. But Kiesle physicians will sign our form. But we also accept their forms, so long as it says that the athlete is cleared for sports.
Yeah, you can absolutely go to your own doctor. You don't have to do the physical at school. We just offer the physical at school to make life easier, because sometimes you try to get a doctor's appointment and they don't have an appointment available for 3 months, and then you're stuck. So that's why we offer the physicals at school, to make it a little bit more convenient for families in case you can't get into your doctors, but you don't have to do the physical here. You absolutely.
I often tell my players, you can, do your own doctor. That's fine. That's great. But you better schedule it ahead of time.
Right.
And our doctor comes, he comes multiple times. It's just, I checked yesterday when I knew we were going to be doing this, and our next time he's here is actually the afternoon of Halloween. It's the 31st. And
So I'm going to go back, because I don't think we answered, is wrestling a co-ed sport? And I guess I can answer it. As a former female wrestling parent, I know a lot about girls wrestling. At Piedmont Hills, I would not say it's a co-ed sport. We just don't have separate teams at Piedmont Hills. We have one wrestling team that both girls and boys can participate in. The way it is, girls wrestling is it's like the fastest growing sport. It's gotten very, very big. We haven't had enough girls go out and become wrestlers to have a separate wrestling team. I would love to have a girls wrestling team. So if you have girls that are interested in wrestling, that I would love that. They don't necessarily wrestle boys, hardly ever. So maybe in a dual meet, they might, if we have a dual meet with like Mount Pleasant and they don't have girls on their team, but they would still be wrestling within their weight class. With wrestling, you always wrestle within your weight class. In the bigger meets, which usually wrestling, like they have, they do weekly dual meets, but usually wrestling a lot of times is like a bigger tournament type setting. They would definitely be wrestling other girls, and definitely in the BVL championship and in the CCS championship, they are wrestling boys versus boys, girls versus girls. Hopefully that answered that question. So Coach Kiesle, where should students go for a tryout? Where can they find the date and the time?
So one, they can come ask me for that information if the coach is given to them. What coaches tend to do is post, like right now, our basketball coach has flyers up in the boys' locker room, our boys' basketball coach, for when their official tryouts start, and what time and where. And usually, of course, depending on the sport, tryouts are going to be in the appropriate building. So, one of our 2 gyms for basketball or volleyball, the football field for football and soccer, the track for track. So the other thing too is that you can check on the BVAL website. If you look under schedules, it does mention when the start dates are. But like we said, I think I mentioned Halloween. We've kept mentioning that's the first official day of tryouts for winter sports. And I think it was January 30th was our day. I believe that's what was up on that slide. For spring sport. So those are the first days that, looking it up, yes, January 30th will be our official start date for all those spring sports. And then from there, the coaches are in charge of communicating, practice times and dates. Most programs practice every single day. Some don't, some might give a day off during the week or whatever. And then once competitions start, obviously that takes up time too.
I would assume that practice is daily, except for Sundays. Nothing ever happens on Sundays.
Yes, we cannot do things on Sundays. If your coach does, tell him no.
Yeah.
I will, because it's against the rules.
Sundays.
It's against the rules.
So is the library open every day? Can students do homework at the library before practice starts? My son gets out at 2:45 and practice starts at 4. The library is open most days. Definitely, well, sort of. I know, so this is complicated after school. It's open on Mondays and Tuesdays for sure. And then some of the other days, usually not Thursdays and Fridays. Thursdays, because that's our collaboration day. And then I think practice usually starts earlier Thursdays if coaches are able to do that. Thursdays, because it's our collaboration day, we often use the library for collaboration, so we can't have students in there. And then Fridays, because it's a Friday. But we do have like picnic tables and benches all around the school that kids are welcome. We do not kick them off. They are welcome to stay here and just be on campus. Absolutely. When does swimming usually practice? So the swimming.
That's a good question, because swimming will sometimes do early morning workouts. Our coaches haven't done that recently. I think they might have had a few last year, but again, swimming will start on their first date to start will be January 30th. And then they'll go through pretty much the rest of the school year. And they usually practice after school. So our rough start time for practice is 4 o'clock because of students that have 7th, but swimming's a kind of more individual. The coach may open it up earlier for kids that don't have 4th or 7th period. I don't know. That'll be up to the individual coach. And then sometimes they have been known to do morning workouts as they get the kids in shape. But I don't know what their plans are at this time.
Any other questions that parents may have? We've answered all of your questions. I always like that. That means that we were thorough.
Yes, I would say they will practice every day once they get started. Swimming, that is, answering that question.
I honestly, I would assume that for every single sport.
Yeah.
I can't.
Absolutely.
So,
I know, like for football, our guys get excited when we give them a day off. Like we play Thursday night, we're probably not going to practice on Friday afternoon. They'll be very excited for one day to rest themselves a little bit.
Yeah. And I do know this is one of those things that we thank you as a parent, because I do remember those days that, like, when you have practice, especially when the practice starts at 5, which some of them do, that is right in the middle of your dinner hour. And so during the season, you're probably not having a lot of family dinners. I know it's tough, but and I would encourage your kids, if they do have a 5 o'clock practice, to get their homework done beforehand, so that they're not staying up so late, because, it's very important for athletes to sleep also. So. I don't know, Matt, if you want to, I don't know if you have any advice about athletes for nutrition and sleep and like just health, that sort of stuff. I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
Well, I don't think I could find it quickly, but I did a lot of that during COVID with my PE classes, did talk a lot about sleep. And, there've been a lot of studies shown on that, obviously kids need to get their sleep. And one of the great things is maybe, limiting their device use after a certain time in the evening is huge. Because they talk a lot about the blue light and things like that keeps kids from getting to sleep.
Yeah. So a question about restrooms to be open for students to use after school when they're at a team practice. I guess it depends on the sport that they're doing. If you're on the football field, those bathrooms are open on the football field. If you're in one of the gyms, they use the restrooms in the gyms. The coaches have keys to those. So.
Yeah, and then like when you're down on the track or the baseball field, usually they'll use the small gym restrooms, but they would probably have to get them open for the kids because they're not always open in the afternoon. But coaches do have keys.
Yeah. So I was just looking ahead at, some of our topics coming up next week, because the presentation for the counseling presentation for juniors are coming up. And so next week, the counselors are going to be with me to talk about their junior year in high school and everything that juniors need to know. And stuff that's important for the junior year. But the week after that, which is October 19th, the topic is importance of sleep. So we are going to talk a lot about sleep and how important that is. Do students need to sign up for a tryout or just walk into the tryout time? I'm assuming they just walk into the tryout.
Yeah, it's usually, well, if the coach, if they pay attention to school bulletin when it's on, sometimes coaches will announce meetings, before the season starts through the school bulletin, or I might put in an announcement if a coach asks me to. Other than that, it's just, you can walk into tryouts. Tryouts are open to everybody. Everybody gets an opportunity to try out. You don't, no guarantee you're going to make the team. Basketball has to cut down, volleyball has to cut down. Sports like football, we don't cut because we need players. And, track and field doesn't cut because they can keep a lot of players. So, but once the students make the commitment, the problem is that, it's not a show up when you feel like thing. Once you make that commitment, you have to show up every day for practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions coming in, we will wrap this up. Hopefully this was informative. Hopefully you as parents are able to come out and see some of our sports, even if your child is not on a team. When our teams make playoffs, I do send out the information to everybody. Those are really fun games to go to. So if you want to just come, I encourage you to do that just as a fan, because they are fun. So hopefully you got some questions answered. Like I said, next week, the counselors are going to be with me again. Next week's really aimed towards the junior year in high school. So if you're a parent of a junior, definitely pay attention to next week. But as always, it's open to anybody. If you're just curious, if you're a parent of a freshman or sophomore and curious about what's to come, you are welcome to join us. Absolutely. If you're a parent of a senior, that's in the past. You don't have to worry about that anymore unless you have more kids coming. Okay, but thank you guys so much. Thank you, Coach Kiesle, for joining me today. And everybody have a wonderful week. All right, stay warm out there. It's a weird time of year where it's cold in the morning and then it warms up. So thank you guys. Thank everybody.
Okay, thank you.